Good morning, everyone. We are coming to you live via Facebook streaming, via YouTube streaming, and also via Skype online. Each one of you is welcome to this live streaming. Sutras of Vigyan Bhairav Tantra. Feel an object before you and also feel the absence of all other objects. We see a flower, we see something, we see so many things, but we never feel anything. Feel an object before you, any object, it does not matter whether it is a flower or a phone or anything. For example, it is a rose flower, anything will do. Feel an object before you, first feel it. Seeing won't do anything. You see a flower, but your heart is not stilled because you are not feeling it. Otherwise, seeing a rose flower, you may start crying, you may start singing, dancing, laughing, but you are not feeling. You are just seeing it. And even that seeing may not be complete because you never see anything completely. The past, the memory says that this is a rose and you pass on. Immediately it comes, the rose in my garden are better. You go to the restaurant, you do not smell the aroma of the food that is being served to you on the dining table. You simply look at it and you talk of the memory, talk out of the memory. You have not seen the flower really. The mind says this is a rose flower. You know everything about it. The roses are of different colors. Orange, red, pink, so many colors. As you have you have known roses before, so what is new about it? You pass on. Just a glimpse is enough to retrieve the memory of your past experience of roses, and you pass on. Even seeing is not complete. Remain with the rose. See it. Then feel it. What to do to feel it? Smell it. Touch it. Let it become a deep bodily experience. Close your eyes. Let the rose touch your whole face. Feel it. Put it on your eyes. Let eyes touch it. Smell it. Put it on your heart. Be silent with it. Give a feeling to the rose. Forget everything else. The whole world. Feel an object before you and feel the absence of all other objects. Because if your mind is still thinking of the other objects, then this feeling will be superfluous and it will not penetrate deeply. Forget all other roses. Forget all other persons. Forget everything. Just let this rose remain. Only the rose and the rose. Forget everything else. Let this rose envelop you completely. You are drowned in the rose. But this will be difficult because you are not sensitive enough. But for women, it will not be so difficult. They can feel it more easily. For men, it will be a little more difficult. Unless they have a very developed aesthetic sense like that of a painter, poet, or a musician. No one can feel it, but you can try. Children can do it much easily. Children can feel very easily. When you give a rose flower to a child, and tell him to enjoy it deeply, and then ask him, how are you feeling? He will say, I have become a rose flower. That is the feeling the child will have. I have become a rose flower. Children can do it very easily, but we never train them. Otherwise, the children could develop into a great meditators. By the way, next week Saturday, I will have a special session where I will speak on certain things. What kind of gift does a master expects from you? What you can give him as a gift for any occasion is birthday. It is erroneous to say, but I have to use the language of the world. Birthday. Body assumes the form, but that which enters the body is never born, never dies. But your connection is that with the body that is ephemeral, that comes and goes, that is born one day and that will disappear one day. But that which is within, that which enters, is never born, never dies. So when you are celebrating the birth of anyone, even you have to know, if you feel that your birthday cannot be celebrated, yet still you have to do certain formalities, it is good. It is for that occasion. I will speak on what kind of gift does a master require from his disciple and what kind of gift you can give. So remember, you can spread the word for those who are not here today. So forget all other objects completely. Feel the absence of all other objects except this rose flower. This is what happens in love. If you are in love with someone, you forget the whole world. If you still remember the world, then know the love is not there. You have forgotten the whole world, only your beloved or the lover remains. That's why I say love is meditation. You can use this technique also as a love technique. Forget everything else. I have heard a couple came. His wife was complaining about certain things. That's why she came to the master. The person said, I have been meditating for a year and now it is deepening. And while I have found it helpful when a peak comes to my meditation to suddenly cry, it helps me. But now a strange thing has happened. When I am making love to my wife, when I come to the peak, I cry loud. Because of this, she is much disturbed and says, are you making love with me? Are you meditating or what are you doing? And why in love making this word and the cry comes in? The man found it difficult. If he does not cry, he cannot achieve the peak. And if I cry, my wife is disturbed. She starts crying and weeping and then making scenes. What to do? That's why I have brought her here. Of course, the complaint of the wife is right because she does not like someone else to be present between them. That is why love needs privacy, absolute privacy. This privacy is meaningful just to forget all others. In Europe, America and other places, the group sex is being practiced. That is nonsense. Many couples making love together, same time in one room. It is absolutely nonsense because then love can never go deep. It will become just a sexual act. The presence of other becomes a barrier. Then it cannot be meditative. With any object, if you forget the whole world, you are in deep love. With a rose flower or a stone or anything else. But the condition is to feel the presence of this object and feel the absence of all others. Let this object be the only existential thing in your consciousness. It will be easy if you try with some object that you are naturally in love with. It would be difficult for you to put a stone, a rock before you and forget the whole world. It would be difficult. But the Zen masters have done it. They have rock gardens for meditation, and that is very popular. In a Zen monastery there is rock gardens. No flowers, no roses, no trees, just rocks and sand. And they meditate on rocks because they say, if you have a deep love relationship with the rock, then no man can create barrier for you. And men are like rocks. If you love a rock, then you can love a man. There is no problem. Rock is hard, so is man. Men are like rocks, even more stony than the rocks. It is difficult to break them and penetrate them. But choose some object. Any object will do. Naturally love and forget the whole world. Relish the presence, taste and presence. Feel it. Go deep into it and let it sink deep into you. Then leaving aside the object. And then comes the most difficult part of this technique. You have left all other objects and only one object has remained. You have forgotten all. Only this one has remained. Now leaving aside the object feeling. Now leave aside the feeling that you have for this object. Leaving aside the object feeling and the absence feeling of other objects. Now there are only two things. Everything else is absent. Now leave that absence also. Only this rose, this face, this woman, this man, this rock is present. Leave this also. And leave the feeling as well. Leave this object and the feeling as well. Suddenly you will fall into an absolute vacuum and nothing remains. And Shiva says, realize. Realize this vacuum, this nothingness. It is your nature. It is your pure being. It is you. It will be difficult to approach nothingness directly. Very difficult and arduous. So it is easy to pass through one object and use it as a vehicle. First put one object in the mind and feel it so totally that you need not remember anything else. Your whole consciousness is filled with this object. Then leave this too and forget this also. You will suddenly fall into an abyss. Nothing remains, no object. Only your subjectivity is there. Pure, uncontaminated, unoccupied. This pure being This pure consciousness is your nature, but do it in steps. Do not try the whole technique at once. First, create an object feeling. For a few days only, go on doing this part. Do not continue with the whole technique. For the first few days or few weeks, do one part. The first part, create an object feeling. Be filled with the object and use one object. Do not change the objects, because with every object you have to make same effort again. If you can choose a rose flower, then go on using the rose flower every day. Be filled with it so that one day you can say, now I am the flower. Then the first part is fulfilled. When only the rose is there and all other objects are forgotten, then relish this idea for a few days. It is beautiful in itself. Very, very beautiful, vital, powerful in itself. Just feel for a few days and then you will be attuned to it. It has become easy. Then you need not struggle. Then the flower comes there suddenly. The whole world is forgotten and only the flower remains. Then try the second part. Now close your eyes and forget the flower as well. If you have done the first, then the second part will not be difficult to remember. But if you try the whole technique in one sitting, the second will be impossible. Because if you can do the first, if you can forget the whole world for the flower, you can forget the flower also for nothingness. So the second part will come, but first you have to struggle for it. And mind is very tricky. The mind will always say to try the whole thing and then you will not succeed. The mind says it is not useful. It is not for me. Try it in parts. If you really want to succeed and understand this, let the first part complete for a few days or few weeks, then move to the second. Then the object is not there, only your consciousness remains just like light, a flame without anything around it. You have a lamp, and lamp's light falls on many objects. Visualize it. If you're in your room, there are many objects. If you bring one lamp into the darkness of the room, all the objects are lighted. The lamp radiates light on every object so that you can see them. Now remain with an object. Let there be one object. The lamp is the same, but now only one object is there. It is only one object is there in its light. Then remove that object as well. What remains is only light. The same happens with your consciousness. You are a flame a light. The whole world is your object. You leave the whole world and you choose one object for concentration. The flame remains the same, but now it is not occupied with multi-objects. It is occupied with only one, and then drop that object as well. Suddenly there is simply light, consciousness. It is not falling on anything. This light that is there, not falling on anything, Buddha calls nirvana. Mahavir has called it Kaivalya, means liberation. The Upanishads have called it Brahman or Atman. Shiva says, if you can do this single technique, you will realize the Supreme. Only this much for this morning. We'll take the next technique tomorrow, and remember for Saturday next week. Until then, take care and do have a pleasant day.